Have you ever thought about how one decision, maybe made thousands of miles away, could just completely change everything, set off this chain reaction?
It's fascinating, isn't it, how history can turn on these, well, specific policy choices. And often the human element, the arguments, the sheer anger gets lost in the big picture.
Exactly. And that's really what we're digging into today. We're looking at taxation without representation. How British actions after the mid-1700s sort of unintentionally lit the fuse for the American Revolution.
Right. And you've given us some fantastic source material, these historical excerpts, to guide
Yeah,
us.
absolutely. So our mission really is to unpack how Britain tried to tighten its grip, collect taxes without consent, and how that, maybe unexpectedly, brought the colonists together.
We'll explore how their leaders used arguments about basic rights, rights as British subjects, individual rights, their own traditions of self-rule, plus those big Enlightenment ideas.
And it wasn't just the thinkers and politicians, right? We'll also get into the popular movements, the everyday people, laborers, artisans, women even, showing just how deep this resistance went.
It was incredibly widespread. So, yeah, get ready. It's quite a story.
Okay, so where do we start? The catalyst.
I think we have to start with the war. The French and Indian War, part of the bigger Seven Years' War. It was phenomenally expensive for Britain.
Right. Victory, but at a huge cost. So Britain looks across the Atlantic and thinks, okay, colonies, time to chip in. And this was a massive change, wasn't it? Because it basically threw out this old approach,
Yeah.
salutary neglect.
That's the key, salutary neglect. For a long time, Britain hadn't strictly enforced a lot of its own laws in the colonies. It was sort of looking the other way.
Deliberately.
Well, somewhat deliberately, yes.
Yeah.
It allowed the colonies to develop their own ways of doing things, their own economies, a real sense of independence. They got used to it.
It developed expectations.
Exactly, expectations of autonomy, and then boom, war debt hits. And salutary neglect, gone, out the window.
Enter Prime Minister George Grenville. He had a plan, right?
Yeah.
Sort of three-step approach.
That's right, a three-pronged strategy. First, crack down on existing laws, especially the Navigation Acts. Colonists were masters of smuggling, getting around those trade rules.
So step one, enforcement. Tighten the screws.
Precisely. Step two, extend wartime rules into peacetime. The big one there was the Quartering Act of 1765.
Ah, yes. Making colonists house and feed British soldiers.
Imagine that. Soldiers living in your home, eating your food, a constant daily reminder of British authority.
Yeah, that wouldn't go over well. And the third prong.
New taxes. And this wasn't just about raising money, though they certainly needed it. It was also a very clear statement of power, asserting imperial authority.
So it's about principle, too, control.
Absolutely. Grenville's plan, whether he fully realized it or not, was fundamentally challenging the colonists' sense of self-governance.
And that led to this wave of new policies, hitting them one after another.
A real cascade, yes.
Here.
Directly hitting their wallets and their sense of autonomy.
Okay, let's run through some of them. You had the Sugar Act in '64.
Right. Taxes on things like coffee, wine, other luxuries, plus stricter enforcement on molasses taxes, which was a big deal for colonial trade.
And the Currency Act, same year.
That stopped colonial assemblies from printing their own paper money, so less money circulating just when Britain's demanding more in taxes.
Okay, that's squeezing them. And then the big one.
The Stamp Act, 1765, this was different. It was a tax on basically all paper goods made in the colonies, newspapers, legal papers, even playing cards.
Wow, so unavoidable. Touched everyone.
Exactly. It wasn't just merchants feeling this one. It hit daily life, business transactions, everything. And the protests were immediate and very loud.
So loud they actually repealed the Stamp Act and the Sugar Act, too, eventually.
They did. But here's the kicker. Right alongside the repeal, Parliament passes the Declaratory Act in 1766.
Which basically said,
okay, we'll take back those specific taxes, but make no mistake, we can tax you and we have absolute authority over the colonies, period.
so no backing down on the principle. Just a tactical retreat on those specific taxes.
Precisely, and they proved it pretty quickly. In 1767, you get the Townshend Acts.
What were those?
Taxes on imported goods, things like paper, tea, glass. The idea was maybe an indirect tax would be more acceptable than the Stamp Act's direct tax.
Did that work?
Not really. Colonists saw it as the same principal taxation without their consent, just dressed up differently.
And things kept escalating. The Boston Tea Party happens.
Right. And Britain's response to that was harsh. The Coercive Acts, 1774, or, as the colonists called them,
The Intolerable Acts, yeah, what do?
they were designed to punish Massachusetts, specifically Boston, closed Boston Harbor until the tea was paid for, limited town meetings, and brought in an even stricter quartering act.
Wow. So really dialing up the pressure.
Immensely. And you have to remember, this is all happening while many colonists are struggling economically, wages are down, unemployment is up in places.
So it's economic pain and this feeling of being politically trampled on.
Yeah. It's a potent combination, and it all crystallizes around that one powerful phrase.
No taxation without representation. Okay, let's really unpack this because it seems absolutely central. This whole idea of actual versus virtual representation. That sounds like the core disagreement, doesn't it?
It really is. And it's amazing how these, kind of abstract political ideas suddenly became very, very real for people on the ground. It connected directly to their money, their jobs, their rights.
So the colonial view was,
The colonial view was pretty straightforward. Only people they actually elected from the colonies could represent their interests and have the right to tax them. This wasn't a new idea, really. It tied into long-standing British traditions, but also those Enlightenment thinkers, Locke, Rousseau, talking about natural rights, the social contract.
government by consent.
Exactly. The idea that a government's legitimacy comes from the people it governs.
But the British saw it completely differently, this virtual representation.
Right. The British argument was that members of parliament represented all British subjects everywhere, whether they voted for them or not. They represented classes and interests, not specific geographic locations in that sense.
So from London's perspective, Parliament did represent the Americans, even without any American MPs.
That was the official line, yes. Parliament could legislate for and tax the entire empire. It feels like a fundamental mismatch in understanding what representation even meant.
A total disconnect.
A chasm, really. And it wasn't just debated in pamphlets. It led to actual organized resistance, like the Stamp Act Congress in 1765.
It was pretty early on, right? Getting delegates together from different colonies.
It was a huge step. 27 delegates, 9 colonies. They met, they petitioned Parliament to repeal the Stamp Act, and their argument was clear. Taxation without representation is tyranny.
Though they weren't calling for independence yet.
Oh, not at all. That's crucial. They were still declaring loyalty to the king. They saw themselves as fighting for their rights as British subjects, wanting to go back to how things were before these new taxes.
Okay, so seeking redress, not revolution at that point.
Correct. Later on, things got more organized, maybe more radical. You see the committees of correspondence popping up.
What were they doing?
Coordinating action between the colonies. Like in Massachusetts, early 1775, they were working to stop supplies from reaching the British Army. That shows growing unity and a more direct challenge to the military presence.
And alongside this organizing, you have these influential leaders really making the case, yeah, using all sorts of arguments.
Absolutely. They drew on everything: British rights, natural rights, self-rule traditions, Enlightenment philosophy. A powerful mix.
People like John Adams.
Yes, John Adams. His dissertation on the canon and feudal law back in 1765 during the Stamp Act crisis, he just laid into British oppression, championed liberty education, warned the Stamp Act was trampling English liberties, and he really pushed for colonial unity.
And John Dickinson. Letters from a Farmer.
Right, Dickinson, responding to the Townshend Acts in 67. His argument was subtle but powerful. Parliament has no right to tax us without consent, and even these small taxes are dangerous. They set a precedent, let them do this, and where does it stop?
The thin end of the wedge argument.
Exactly. Then you have someone like John Hancock, maybe more fiery, his Boston Massacre oration in 1774.
Delivered on the anniversary, right?
Yeah, aimed squarely at stirring up anti-British feeling. He painted the massacre as the inevitable result of having troops occupy the city, tyranny leading to bloodshed. Very effective rhetoric.
And Patrick Henry. Can't forget him.
Definitely not. Give me liberty or give me death. 1775. Just before things really kicked off, he's arguing war is coming, reconciliation is impossible, and liberty is worth dying for. Pure revolutionary fire.
Wow. And women were writing and thinking about this too, like Mercy Otis Warren.
Absolutely. Mercy Otis Warren was a sharp political writer, deeply involved in the cause. Her letters, like one to Hannah Winthrop in 1775, show this intense reflection on British injustice, this growing belief that something had to be done.
Okay, so this is where it gets really fascinating for me. It wasn't just these well-known figures, the lawyers and the politicians. it was broader than that, wasn't it?
Oh, completely. That's a vital point. The energy, the momentum came hugely from popular movements. Laborers, artisans, farmers, and women played a massive role.
It really was grassroots.
Deeply grassroots. It had to be to sustain the level of resistance we saw. Think about Abigail Adams, for instance.
John Adams' wife.
Yes. Her letters, like one to Mercy Otis Warren in 75, are just filled with political discussion, outrage at Britain, this real sense of urgency. She wasn't just observing, she was in it, thinking, arguing.
And symbols matter too, right? Like Crispus Attucks.
Hugely. Attucks, one of the first killed at the Boston Massacre. He became this instant martyr, a symbol of British brutality, even though the soldiers involved were mostly acquitted later. The event itself was powerful propaganda for the patriot cause.
And you mentioned women's involvement, the Daughters of Liberty.
Yes. These groups were crucial, especially fighting the Townsend Acts. They organized boycotts. Women refused to buy British cloth, spinning their own instead. They brewed herbal teas to avoid British imports.
That's economic resistance, hitting Britain where it hurts their trade.
Absolutely. It was practical and symbolic, and sometimes very public, like the Edenton Tea Party in North Carolina, 1775.
What happened there?
51 women signed a public declaration saying they wouldn't buy British tea or cloth. Hugely bold for the time. The British press made fun of them, but it showed women were active political players.
Definitely. And there were more militant groups too. The Green Mountain Boys.
Right, up in what's now Vermont,
Right.
led by Ethan Allen. They famously took Fort Ticonderoga from the British early in the war, May 1775.
That was a big early win, wasn't it? Captured cannons and stuff.
Huge morale boost. And Allen's demand for surrender in the name of the Great Jehovah and the Continental Congress. Whether he actually said it exactly like that or not, it captures that defiant spirit.
And the Sons of Liberty. We hear about them a lot.
Very active, especially against the Stamp Act. Often merchants, artisans, traders. They organized protests, enforced boycotts, sometimes used intimidation.
And the Boston Tea Party was them.
Yes, that was our most famous act. Around 50 members, disguised as Mohawk Indians, dumping all that tea into the harbor in 1773. A direct, provocative act of defiance.
Symbols, again, like Paul Revere's Liberty Bowl.
Exactly. Commissioned to honor legislators who resisted the Townsend Acts. These objects, these actions, they help solidify the resistance identity.
So it's clear this wasn't just a few disgruntled elites. It was, well, a whole society mobilizing.
It really was. Men, women across different classes providing money, supplies, participating in boycotts, facing down soldiers. This broad commitment is what made revolution possible.
So wrapping this up, it seems like a clear path. In hindsight, maybe, Britain ends salutary neglect, imposes policies seen as unfair taxes and controls, ignites this firestorm based on no taxation without representation, and the resistance grows from intellectual arguments to widespread popular action.
That captures it well. From leaders leveraging ideas about rights and liberty to ordinary people taking action through boycotts, protests, and eventually picking up arms, the contributions from women, from laborers, were absolutely essential.
In understanding this, I think, it really shows the power of people getting together, how ideas about rights can catch fire, and, well, what happens when people feel their fundamental rights are being violated?
It absolutely does. It's about how abstract principles meet concrete grievances and how that fusion, combined with organization and courage, can quite literally change the world.
So, for you, listening to all this, thinking about all these different people involved, the thinkers, the merchants, the farmers, the Daughters of Liberty, the Sons of Liberty, what do you think was the single most powerful thing that united them? What pushed them over the edge from protest to full-blown revolution?
That's a great question to ponder. Was it the economic hardship, the principle of representation, the fear of tyranny, or something else entirely?
Something to think about.
Woo!
Until our next deep dive.